Now, if you're watching this, you probably watch a lot of videos on YouTube, see a lot of stuff on Instagram or on TikTok about basketball training, how to get better at basketball. There's so much information out there, so many different people saying different things. So I wanted to simplify everything into 6 laws that you can follow if you want to make sure that you're getting better at basketball. The thing is, a lot of players get so caught up in the exact drills they're doing, the exact program that they're using, the exact workouts that they're doing, and that becomes like the only thing that they think matters. And so they're constantly looking for, okay, what's the best workout to do? What are the best drills to do? And it's like they're jumping from one thing to the next. And even when they find what people claim is the best, they still don't see the improvement that they want to, right? Or they still don't move close to those goals that they want to have. And the problem, the reason for this is because there's actually a lot of things that are even more important than the drills that you're doing. Okay. The drills can matter, right? But if you don't understand the laws behind getting better at basketball, the principles behind it, then you're just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard with a blindfold on and just hoping that you hit a bullseye. Okay. And some players will get lucky and a lot of players won't. So I want to make sure that you don't have to rely on luck and hoping that the things that you're doing are actually pushing you towards your goals of becoming the best player you can be. I want you to make sure that the stuff that you're doing is allowing you to move towards your goals as a basketball player, and you can bank on it. And the best thing about this is that when you do these things, the drills that you do, it's going to be so much simpler for you to understand, like, okay, that's something that I should do, and that's going to help me, and that's not going to help me. And it's going to help you in this era of all this information out there, where this trainer says this one says this. It's going to help you to know like what's right, and it's going to give you a roadmap and an idea of what to follow so that you're focused. A lot of players struggle to get better because they're being pulled in so many different directions by so many different people saying conflicting things. But when you have the roadmap and you have the idea of what you should be looking for, and you can put everything and compare it to that, you're going to be in a really good position to get a lot better at basketball. So we're going to talk today about the 6 laws of getting better at basketball. And these 6 laws are going to completely transform the way that you train, the way that you play, and ultimately the results and the success that you have on the court. Let's get into it. The first law of getting better at basketball is the law of presence. This is probably the simplest one, but it might be the hardest one though. And this is something that I talk about with my players all the time, with the kids that I train, the players that I coach, and I see examples of this all the time. The number one most important thing that you have to do is you have to show up. And you have to show up consistently every single day, over and over and over and over again. It's so easy to get caught up in having a bad day the day before. You have a bad workout, you have a bad practice, you have a bad game, whatever. You don't feel great that day when you wake up. And it's really easy to allow what just happened to you to affect you showing up here. And it can be really frustrating if you're putting in work and you watch this video and now you make sure that the things that you're doing are pushing you towards your goals, and you focus on that. And guess what? You have a week where you play terrible. And when that next day, when that 8th day rolls around, it's hard to get up and show up again, because that's just human nature, right? The thing that you have to understand is that progress is not linear, meaning so many players want to think that they're a robot and that, okay, well, if I go on day 1, I'm going to shoot 50%, and then day 2, I'm going to shoot at 52%, and then day 3, I'm going to shoot at 54%, and then eventually I'm going to get up to 100%. Every single day, I'm going to get a little bit better. And that's not how it works. There's going to be days where you shoot great. You shoot at 70%. And then the next day, you shoot at 40, right? And it's not because you got worse. It's because progress doesn't work like that. It doesn't work every single day you're a little bit better. Some days, you're going to feel worse. You're going to play worse. But ultimately, you have to play the long game. If you continue to show up, your progress is going to trend upwards. It's just going to be a roundabout way of good days, bad days. But ultimately, over time, you're going to start to consistently play better. And the problem is a lot of players don't get to that point because they quit or they change what they're doing before they're able to get to that point where they work through the adversity, the difficulties. And so just showing up, being present every single day, whether it's to your practices, to your own workouts, to lifting, to this, that, you have to keep showing up even if you don't see results right away, even if the results aren't what you want them to be right away. If you trust in what you're doing, you have to almost forget about the results in the short term. How do I feel today? How did I play yesterday? Those can't affect what you do. You show up, you can play horrible, right? You can feel horrible, but the fact that you showed up is going to push you towards being a better player. And like I said, it's the simplest rule, the simplest law, but it's one that a lot of players can't do. And so I have to constantly remind my players every single day in practice, like, hey, listen, today was a tough one for some of you guys. You need to show up tomorrow and go at it again, right? You might be better, you might be worse, but if you keep showing up, if you keep doing that thing, you're going to get better at it over time, okay? And it's not going to be linear. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to feel better every single day, but you're going to get there if you continue to show up. So law number one, simplest one of all, the law of presence. You got to continue to show up. Number two is the law of the edge of ability. Now, what this means is that whenever you're training, you should be right on the edge of what you're capable of doing. So essentially what that means is that the challenge that you're facing should be at the brink of, or even maybe a little bit more than what your current ability level is. Okay, so what that's going to mean is something that I talk about a lot, the Goldilocks principle of we want to make sure that in our training we're only succeeding about 30 to 70% of the time. Okay, so it means we're going to fail a lot of the times. You're going to do a shooting drill, and we're going to find a way to make it a little bit difficult. Maybe you move back a little bit farther. Maybe you work on shooting a little bit faster. Maybe you work on adding, differential learning to it. So changing up your footwork that you're using, maybe adding in a bad pass, and all those things are going to push what you're capable of doing, and it's going to make you perform a little bit worse. But because you're on the edge of your ability, that's how you grow and get better. And the reason why a lot of players put in a ton of work and they don't see results is because they're not training at the edge of their ability. They're training very much in what they're comfortable doing. So the shots that they're shooting in games, they're going and they're probably not even getting shots that are as difficult as those ones. They're going to go and they're going to shoot 10 spot up shots in the corner, then 10 in the wing and 10 at the top, and everything is going to be super perfect, rep after rep. There's no variability to it, no bad passes you have to deal with. You're never tired. All those things you deal with in games, a lot of times players don't put themselves through in practice. And because of that, your training doesn't translate to the game. Players will work on stationary ball handling, which can be fine, right? There's certainly uses for it, but that's all that they do. And then they get to a game, and now they have a defender pressuring them, and they have to move really fast with the ball, and they can't do it because they haven't trained at the edge of their ability to be able to expand what they're capable of doing. So the question needs to become, am I failing enough in my workouts? Are my workouts hard enough? Okay. And what that might look like is that it might look like you saying, okay, in my ball handling drills, I'm not really messing up ever. I'm not really losing the ball ever. It's not really very challenging to me. So how do I find a way to make this harder and push myself to the edge of my ability? A few ways we can do this. One of the ways that I love doing it is just by going faster. Okay. And it's probably the simplest when we talk about ball handling, but can I move the ball faster? Can I move my body faster? If you're working on, change of direction moves and, maybe as you're driving to the basket, how much faster can you make that move? Can you make it your goal? Can you make it your aim to lose the ball 50% of the time when you're working in that drill? And that's like the backwards thought for most players. Most players are like, I never want to lose the ball in practice or in workouts. Like I want to get it right every single time. But if you don't find the edge of your ability and push it, there's no reason to improve, right? Getting better at basketball is like lifting weights, right? Similar concept. When you're lifting weights, if you stay with the same weight forever, you never get stronger because your muscles don't have anything new to adapt to overcome. So why would you get stronger? It's the same thing when it comes to getting better at any skill in basketball. If you don't have something that pushes you to get better at that skill, you're not going to get better at it. So you have to find the edge of your ability. You have to train at that. Meaning, ask yourself, am I failing enough in workouts? Or do I never lose the ball on my ball handling drills? Do I make 90, 95, 100% of my layups in my workouts? How do I find a way to make it more difficult? Maybe I need to work on finishing off of a different foot, or I need to work on finishing higher up off of the glass, or I need to work on jumping from farther away on my finish to make it more difficult, or I can work on maybe going up and trying to go with like an up and under, so touching the net and then finishing on the other side of the backboard. And now you're down to making only maybe 40% of your layups, but you're on the edge of your ability, so you're going to get better because of that right there. We talked shooting already, but how do I find a way to go from, okay, if I'm making 70% of my shots in my workouts, how do I find a way to push that to 50? And I'm not saying you want to try and miss. I'm saying you want to find ways to make things more difficult for yourself. So maybe for you, you say, okay, I've got to make 5 shots at this one spot to move on to the next spot. And maybe that becomes pretty easy for you. You can do it pretty quick. And so then you say, okay, well, actually, I'm going to change it. Now I've got to make 3 in a row to move on. So now you're adding in an element of pressure, which is very similar to what you're going to feel in a game shooting the basketball. And now all of a sudden, we're training at the edge of our ability because we have another variable that's introduced that makes the shot harder, makes the drill harder for us. And maybe you fail more, maybe it takes you longer to finish that spot right there. And like I mentioned, changing up, you shoot with weird footwork just in case you get to a game and your feet aren't perfect, you can still make the shot, or you're off a bad pass. There's ways that we can tweak what we're doing, and that's going to allow us to become better. I'll link a video above that gives you like some more ideas on how to make things more difficult, train the edge of your ability. But again, put yourself in that Goldilocks zone as much as you can. So where you're failing 30 to 70% of the time in your drills and your workouts, and by doing that, by failing more because you're training at the edge of your ability, you're going to actually improve, and the work you put in is actually going to matter. Okay. And a lot of players avoid that, and they try and be perfect, and they don't push themselves. And that's why they never grow. They never get better. So that second law, the law of edge of ability, is where you need to put yourself if you want to actually get better through your training. Number 3 is the law of specificity. So this is very simple. If you want to get better at something, you need to do that thing more. And this is where basketball training and basketball in general is so behind, and it lags so much, is because players will think to themselves, well, I want to get better at, handling pressure. So I'm going to do 2 hours a day of stationary ball handling, right? And again, I'm not trying to use stationary ball handling as a scapegoat here, because it can be useful. But if you want to get better at handling pressure, the best way to do that is to go and handle pressure. So let's work from that. What can you do to put yourself in a situation where you can work on handling pressure? You might not be able to do it in your real games, right? Because maybe you're not very good at it, maybe you don't have the opportunities. But think about when you go to the YMCA, you go to the park and you're playing 1-on-1 or 3-on-3 or 5-on-5. Can you find opportunities to handle the basketball against pressure a little bit more? Can you put yourself in those situations, and you can say, hey, I'm going into this pickup game, into this practice, into whatever, with actual purpose, which is something we're going to talk about in a second right here. But I want to get better at handling pressure, so I'm going to put myself in that situation as often as I possibly can. And when you do that, that's going to allow you to get better at that exact thing. And this is an area that I struggled so much with as a player. I had things, handling ball pressure is a great example. I wanted to get better at that, so I did all these ball handling drills. I'd get back into games, and I can't handle the ball against pressure any better than I could before, right? Maybe I can handle the ball better when there's no one guarding me, because that's what I was doing. But when it came to handling in that situation, I got to find ways to put myself in that situation, and I didn't. So I didn't see the improvement there. And really what this comes down to is that if you want to get better at basketball, you've got to play as much basketball as you can, okay? I had this conversation yesterday with somebody where basketball is so unique because you have the physical part of it, right? Where the shooting, the ball handling, the finishing, defense, all those physical skills that we spend so much time on. Again, you probably watch a ton of TikToks, Instagram reels, YouTube videos talking about the best drills and the best tips to score more and do this and all that stuff, right? But outside of that, there's an entire mental side of the game, an entire emotional part of the game that accounts for way more of your success than any of the physical parts do, right? The IQ, the understanding of, okay, when do I do what? In this situation, what's the right decision to make right there? How do I know when to make a pass to my teammate? When is it my turn to go? What's a good shot? What's a bad shot? And that's talking offense. What about on defense? Well, okay, how do I play this guy to make sure that I take away his strength? And what angle do I need to take when I'm defending this guy on a drive to cut him off? And, where do I need to position myself on a defensive rebound to give myself the best chance of getting it? That's just a small sample of it right there. So there's so many little nuanced things you pick up. But if all you do is spend time doing drills by yourself, you don't pick up those little nuanced things. So yeah, you might get better at dribbling the basketball, but you don't actually know how to apply that into your games because you haven't spent enough time doing the thing. The law of specificity, right? You want to get great at playing basketball, play basketball as much as you possibly can. I'm not saying don't do drills. I'm just saying you need to look to put yourself in a situation, and I think the best way of describing it is you want to see defense as often as you possibly can. If you can do it every single day, that's incredible. That's amazing, okay? The more that you do that, the more you're going to pick up on these little nuanced things. They're going to allow you to see really good results, especially if you're also putting in that work, doing your drills, doing your workouts, all that sort of stuff right there. Like I mentioned, there's so much that goes into being a great basketball player. outside of the physical stuff. And if you don't have that, you're going to struggle to be able to perform in games in these different situations. As someone who struggled with this myself, and then as a trainer, see my players struggle with it all the time. And now as a high school coach, I work, and so much of what we talk about is this stuff. It's the IQ, it's the confidence aspect of the game here. I recognize how big of a struggle that is, how big of a limiting factor it is for players. So click the top link down below in the description to get my free basketball IQ masterclass. It's an hour long. It's going to help you to score more points, create more for your team, and overall just play with way more confidence. And you're going to see like the exact reads, techniques that are going to help you to immediately start to score more points and make more plays and play with just way more confidence in your games, like immediately, because you're just going to have a different understanding of the game right here. Continue to get great feedback on that. Like I said, completely free. It's an hour long. Top link down below. Make sure you check that out if you have not. So kind of to wrap up, when we talk about the law of specificity, you got to ask yourself, what do I want to be better at? What is it that I want to be better at? And like I mentioned, we're actually going to talk about another law that deals with that specifically. But if I want to get better at, making shots in game situations, making threes in game situations, let's say, well, you have to do that as much as you can. Meaning, anytime that you're playing, that's got to be your focus. You might catch the ball and say, well, I could drive against this guy and probably score. But because I'm trying to work on making threes in game situations, I'm going to shoot this three instead. In this pickup game, in this 2-on-2, in this 3-on-3, whatever, whenever there's defense on the court and it's not a real game, okay? And you're going to get reps at doing that thing, at doing that specific thing. You're going to get better at it because you're focused on that. And that's a really important thing to understand, the law of specificity. If you want to get better at a specific thing, go do that thing, that exact thing as much as you possibly can. And that's the secret. That's the key to seeing massive improvement there. The fourth law, the law of purposefulness. Purposeful has become one of my favorite words, and anybody who plays for me or trains with me hears me say this word a lot. You got to be purposeful with what you do. So the law of purposefulness, you need to have a vision of what you want. You need to know exactly what it is that you want and what it is that you're focused on. So I mean, it's from a couple different angles. First of all, you've got to know, well, what do I want to accomplish? If you're trying to get better at basketball, what is it you want to get better at? You want to become a better shooter. You want to become a better ball handler. Okay, what does that look like for you? What does that mean? Maybe for you, it means you want to be able to handle the ball with pressure without turning it over, right? That might be your goal right there. Maybe it means that you want to average 2 3-pointers per game next season. Okay, maybe that's what that means for you. But do you have an idea of what it is that you want to be better at? And can you actually talk about what that would look like for you? And then when you have that idea of what you want to get better at, well, now you got to ask yourself how. Okay, how am I going to become a better shooter? Kind of like what we talked about here. You want to get better at making those shots in games. Well, everything you do has got to be focused on that thing right there. So if you're going to play pickup, you're going to play one-on-one, like whatever, you have to go in there, understand that you're trying to get better at that thing, right? If you just go in there, you're just kind of there and you're just aimless, you're just floating around, you're not going to get better at that thing because you're not purposeful about what you're doing. Every time that you step into a gym, there needs to be a purpose for you doing it. And if someone were to ask you, hey, what's your purpose for being here today? You should be able to give them an answer, okay? And a lot of players can't do that. A lot of players just kind of show up and they hope that they're getting better. And they hope that, a lot of times they don't know what they want to get better at, right? They haven't thought about it. And then they go and they show up and they don't know if they're actually getting better at that thing because they're not purposeful about it, okay? So if you want to become a better shooter, well, you've got to be purposeful every time you go into the gym. Okay, I'm focusing on becoming a better shooter, meaning when I have opportunity to shoot the basketball, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure that, whenever I miss a shot, I'm not just letting it go. I'm not just, kind of aimless. I'm going to say, okay, well, how do I adjust now? Okay, I keep missing flat. I got to shoot it higher. I keep missing short. I got to shoot it farther. Okay, I keep missing left. I got to shoot it more to the right. You can make it as simple as that, but there has to be purpose behind what you're doing. And when you're very purposeful with your improvement, with your time in the gym, you're going to make progress way faster than most players will, because every time you step in the gym, you're actually accomplishing something and moving towards the things that you want to have. Number 5 is the law of discomfort. Now, this is something that's really difficult for players and kind of similar to the law of presence. The players who can do this the most tend to be the ones that succeed long term and that actually achieve the goals that they set for themselves. So you have to be willing to seek out discomfort and sit in it for long periods of time. So going back to what we talked about with the law of edge of ability, being at the edge of your ability and getting better is a really hard thing to do, and it's why a lot of players don't do it. It's much easier to go to the gym and do things that you're already good at, and you're gonna feel really good about making shots and not losing the basketball, and you're gonna feel great about it. Okay, that is actually like it's your brain tricking you into thinking you're doing something good when you're not. You actually need to seek out discomfort. Meaning when you leave the gym, you should be a little frustrated. You should be a little angry. You should be maybe even a little bit mentally drained because you were missing shots or you were losing the basketball. And that's the funny thing is that that feeling, most players think that they want to avoid that. In reality, you want to have that feeling as much as you can after your workouts, after your practices, because that means that you're at the edge of your ability, and because of that, you're going to get better, right? There's actually a reason for you to expand and for your skills to improve, and that's some players can do that once or twice or every once in a while. Very few players can show up every single day with that purpose, saying, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to focus on, and I'm willing to stay at the edge of my ability for this entire workout or this entire drill, day after day after day after day." That's really uncomfortable to do. It's really difficult to do. And it's why a lot of players don't achieve the goals that they have for themselves as players. So you need to make sure that you hunt discomfort, you hunt difficulty, hunt challenge. Okay. Maybe it means that you go play pick up at a place where you're going to be the worst player there. That's like the best possible thing. You might go there, you might look terrible, you might not score, you might turn the ball over, but guess what? You're at the edge of your ability, right? You're uncomfortable. And if you're willing to do that over and over and over and over again, you're going to get better because of it. But it's not something that you're able to skip. If you're not willing to go through the discomfort, you're not going to get better at basketball. It's just how it works here. It requires discomfort to be great and to improve at something. So the law of discomfort changed the way that you view success. Success in a workout, success in, at a time where you're trying to get better is not you making every shot, you never losing the basketball, you never looking bad. Success is you failing, you feeling uncomfortable and continuing to work through it and continuing to go at it, and going despite all those things working against you. That's what a successful workout is going to look like for you. And if you can switch that flip, or if you can flip that switch, sorry, and if you can start to view your workouts like that, you're going to be in a position to continue to get better at basketball at a very accelerated rate, because most players are running away from discomfort as much as they possibly can. You've got to go against the crowd with that. You got to go, against the flow of the river with that, and it's going to allow you to stand out and make progress way faster than most players who are not willing to do that. And the last law I want to talk about is the law of creativity. So the problem with a lot of basketball training is that it's so rigid, and everybody talks about there's one right way to do this. When you dribble, you got to dribble like this. When you shoot, you got to shoot like this. Your hands got to do this, and your follow through's got to look like this. And while that certainly is a part of it, right? There are certainly things you can adjust, and there are certainly things that for most players might be right, and might be the best thing to do. Obviously, when I'm training my players and we're in practice, we'll work on specific footwork. We'll work on different things that are like very specific, right? But also, we want to give a lot of creativity and a lot of freedom, because every player is a little bit different. And you've got to figure out who exactly you are as a basketball player, right? There's no one else on planet Earth that you're going to play exactly like. You might play similar to somebody. You might learn something from one player and then learn something else from a different player. But at the end of the day, it's all going to merge into something unique that you are. You've got to embrace that and be willing to be creative and to put yourself in a position to figure things out. One of the things that we do in practice every single day is we call it DL shooting. Every single day we do it, where each player is going to partner up and they're going to shoot 3 sets of 6 shots, where the only rule is that it can be anything but a normal looking shot. So they can mix the way their feet look, the way that their hands look on the ball. They can shoot it off 1 foot, whatever. It doesn't matter. But every shot's got to be a little bit unique. And this allows us to build creativity, build freedom, and build some solutions to problems, where now when you get into a game and your feet are a little bit off, you can still make the shot because you've worked on it. Now when a defender closes out from your right side, maybe you shift the ball to your left a little bit and you can still make it because you've worked on that. Okay, you want to give yourself a sense of freedom when you're playing the game of basketball. That's where confidence is going to come from, and we can really see this when it comes to like ball handling. How much time are you spending just kind of freestyling? Just kind of not, not going through drills where every single thing is pre-planned. You're going to go between, cross, behind, and then you're going to go between, behind, and then you're going to go double between, right? Just giving yourself time to be able to be creative and kind of dance with the basketball and, try out different things. How much time are you spending just working on different spins around, like different angles around the rim and spinning the ball off of the backboard? And okay, how do I put enough touch on it to make it spin from that angle and then from that angle? How often are you doing stuff like that? For a lot of players, the unfortunate answer is that they're never doing that because they're always following an exact to the T drill where you do this and you finish right hand, left foot on the right side of the rim, and then all their workouts are planned out for them like that. And then they go to practice and their coach has them do exactly this. And then they go to their trainer and their trainer says, "Okay, we're going to work on hezzy, tween, step back, fake, step through," and like they're robots, right? And you're a robot. You get to a game and you have to be able to react and be creative at times and find solutions when the defender rotates over late. And okay, one time that happens and the kid is 5'9", and the next time the kid is 6'6". How does that change how you can finish there? Or can you finish? Do you have to make a kick out? Well, you can't kick it out with two hands because there's somebody on your right side. So can you kick the ball out with one hand right there? Have you worked on the ability to pass with creativity? And you can merge the two when we talk about ball handling and passing. Do you spend time just dribbling the basketball around, freestyling, trying different moves, whatever? Maybe putting a target on a wall and trying different one-handed passes, trying to hit different targets on the wall. That's building creativity. That's building flow state. So you can get into a game, and no matter how a defender plays you, you're able to adapt and adjust and find a solution for that problem. Okay, so taking time, whether it's ideally it's for as much of a workout as you could make it, but even if it's just 5-10 minutes during a workout where you can just freestyle, be creative, maybe say, hey, I'm going to take 5 minutes to finish right here, and I can't do the same finish twice. Every single finish has got to be different. This time it's going to come off my left foot with my left hand, and then my right foot with my left hand, and then 2 feet with my right hand, and 2 feet with my left. Now I'm going to go 2 feet with a pivot, and now I'm going to go off of 2 feet, but I'm going to touch the net and finish on the right side. Then I'm going to touch the net, finish on the left side, and next time I'm going to finish really high off the rim, and then I'm going to go with the floater. And like you can mix up your finishes for 5 minutes. And that's how you build creativity. You're going to get into a game, and all of a sudden you're going to pull out a finish that you've never done before because you've built your ability to be creative and find solutions. And that is a massive part of being a great basketball player. You can do that with literally any skill, right? Like I talked about before, we'll spend time just being creative with how we shoot the basketball. So take some time and take 10 or 15 shots and say, okay, each shot can be anything but normal. I got to change up something to make it kind of weird, and I can't do the same shot twice. And you're going to build creativity from that perspective and allow you to have more solutions, okay? The best basketball players are the ones who have the most solutions. And what that means is that no matter what situation you put them in, you can give them any problem and they find a way to still succeed, okay? You go and trap them late, they're able to make a dribble move instinctually to get through that. And maybe they don't do that move more than once that game, but they have a solution for that exact problem because they're able to be creative and figure things out on the fly. And that is where you want to be if you want to become a great basketball player. So again, just running through the 6 laws again. Number 1, the law of presence. You got to continue to show up every single day, no matter how you feel, how you performed, how you think things are going. Got to keep on showing up. Number 2, the law of edge of ability. You have to be training at the edge of your ability as often as you possibly can if you want to force yourself to get better and make sure that the work you're putting in actually matters. Number 3, the law of specificity. So if you want to get better at a specific thing, do that specific thing as much as you possibly can. Number 4, the law of purposefulness. Are you purposeful every time you go into the gym? Do you know what it is you want to get better at? And do you know exactly how it is you're going to do that thing and focus on that thing so that you achieve that goal? Number 5, the law of discomfort. You need to not only be okay with being uncomfortable, but you need to seek it out. And you need to be willing to sit in that discomfort for long periods of time if you want to separate yourself from everybody else and get better. And then number 6 is the law of creativity. Put yourself in a position to be creative, to build freedom, and to find and put yourself in a position to find solutions and be a problem solver if you want to see your training translate to in-game success. So again, if you follow these 6 rules and if you view everything that you do kind of through the lens of these 6 laws, you're going to get better at basketball. Okay. And I think it's something that, you really want to make sure you pay attention to and you focus on. Like I mentioned earlier, click that top link in my description down below to get my free Basketball IQ Masterclass. We continue to touch on a lot of the stuff and a lot of the principles we talk about in here, but also, again, some really practical ways that you can score more points, create more for your team, play with way more confidence, and just become the player that you want to be from an IQ, from mental perspective. And what that's going to allow you to do is really see those physical skills flourish. And the stuff that you work on is going to matter way more when you have the basketball IQ to match it. So, like I said, completely free, hour long. Top link down below. Appreciate you for watching. Talk soon. Peace.